Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is oh, you cut us off. This is Director's Cut, OMG, Network Empire, Jimmy Kelly, Sue Bell, Russell Wright. It's so good to see each and every one of you this morning. It's amazing how many of you are getting on these calls, and I got to tell you, I didn't expect the kind of discipline that you guys have been showing the last few weeks. This is really, really great. How's everybody doing today? Give us a 1 if you can hear me. 2 if you can't hear me. Just kidding.
Woohoo! Aloha.
Jimmy Kelly is in rare form today. Don't mess with him. We were up late.
He cracked the internet.
He cracked the internet. We were doing some, actually kind of did. That was pretty badass. This is what we do. We live, breathe, eat this stuff. SEO, power, trust, domain authority, rankings.
And we're here to share it all with you.
We're here to give it all to the Director's Cut team and community. Yes. All right, we're getting some ones. Looks like everybody's on board. And give me a 1 if you're caffeinated and 2 if you're not. Because if you're not, probably I'm going to have to kick you off of the call.
All right, bye.
Okay, Melanie Alexander's gone.
I would be in the 2 ranges.
Susie Black's gone.
Oh, no, she can't leave because I got 5,000 questions.
We won't let Susie go. Susie asks good questions. Linda Joseph, Clint. Okay. All right, so we have about 7 people who are not caffeinated that we're going to have to boot off the call. I'm just kidding, guys. They probably won't appreciate that humor at all. Oh, Pip's like making coffee now. Pip, did you get that thing on the thing about the RSS feed on Facebook? We are actually going to make an update. So Sue's solution using the FeedBurner that fixes that right up. Okay, Pip says yes, that works. Okay. Excellent. So just a quick update on all that, you guys. One feed supercharger. If you're trying to actually do what we suggest, like run Facebook through there, you need to go ahead and do a FeedBurner. Facebook has some it's got some wonky things going on. Of course, everything in Facebook has some wonk. So because everything they do is designed to be unshareable, except for them.
It's designed to suck you in and keep you there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there is a really programming style, Pip, like on that stuff. So that's what that's about. And good catch on that, guys. Don't hesitate to let us know if something's not functioning properly in your context. We deal with that, and sometimes you do find little quirks. Let's see.
That's a good question from Don.
Don W's like, forget all this ranting, Russell, and he starts getting on the questions.
Right?
Is it safe to do Tumblr method multiple times with the same keywords and the same domain name, even if you power up Tumblr reblog links? Really good question. Jimmy?
Well, it depends on what kind of link that you did back to your money site. So
yeah.
if you use an embed for a video, you're going to be perfectly safe. If you did a picture, depends on if you use the alt image tag when you're going in there to put your keyword in. You want to be careful about doing that. And, if you did an actual contextual link, I would not recommend that.
Okay.
So it really depends on how they did the link back to the money site. That's going to determine how safe that is. And, of course, juicing up the other reblogs, you want to make sure that you're not hammering that with garbage, low-quality junk.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise, think about when they share the reblog, that's still a 1 jump away from your money site, so you're not wanting to hit that with spam.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
To consider when they're setting that up.
Looks like that freaked Don out so much that he left, so we'll move on to the next question. No, he probably got bumped. We'll catch him up on that. Jimmy is distant. Okay, David Duncan is saying that you sound a little bit distant from the mic, so stick that thing right back in your face, Jimmy.
Yeah, I tried to pull it up.
I realize you've been up all night. Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out, David. We've had a late night. Okay, what do you think, Sue?
Oh, am I supposed to talk now?
Do we need to jump?
All right.
No, you've been up all night too. Do you want to jump into the spreadsheet, or
Sure.
should we jump into the spreadsheet? Yeah.
All right. Susie, we've got 5,432 questions. So,
Susie
background.
Black, she's on it.
She's a desktop developer working with RSS feeds for about 8 years. Excellent.
Nice.
Using them to display information on LED signs. Oh, fascinating.
Okay.
Excellent. Watched Russell's terrific set of Why RSS plus DA for Dummies. Learned a lot. Now more questions. See, Russell, I knew it. You put out some videos. And
those things weren't supposed to go out there. That was just supposed to be a... Where'd you guys even find that? It's not even like on YouTube.
It's on the Facebook.
Okay, good.
So, say you splice 2 feeds together in 1 feed supercharger. I'll post from blog 1 and I'll post from blog 2. The result is an RSS called myfeeds.xml. All right. So question number 1. If you put that as the input file to Social Explosion, am I correct in assuming that all posts in the file are supposed to be exploded, not just the ones from the very recent pub dates? Yes, all of them will be exploded.
Mm-hmm.
If you then add another post to blog 1, does the XML file automatically update, or do you have to do something to update it? It will automatically update, and it will automatically be exploded. Once the XML file is updated, if it's still referenced in Social Explosion, am I correct in assuming at this point only the newest entries in the XML? Right, everything that's added to that XML file after the initial explosion will get exploded.
Okay.
Correct, because the rest of them have already been done. Right. So now let's say that you want to add blog number 3 post to the RSS feed so you can socially explode it. Can you add it to the existing XML file and then Social Explosion will recognize the new posts and explode them? Yes. So it will read that XML file. Social Explosion will read that XML file every time it parses it, and it will find everything that's new in it, and it will explode that. So I'm seeing this is not wrapping. Hang on. 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Format. Text wrapping. Wrap. All right. So now you want to remove blog 1 from the XML file. Again, can you do that, or do you need to create a new XML file? You should just be able to do that. You just go into Social Explosion and remove that one line, and it should all be good. Cotton and Derek's Tumblr training showed them splicing feeds from all reblogs into an RSS feed to use to input into Social Explosion. Okay, so question number 6. If you did that and changed the RSS input in Social Explosion, and then after your Tumblr RSS had exploded, you changed the RSS file name back in Social Explosion to your original blog 1, blog 2, blog 3, would Social Explosion recognize that all the old posts have been socially exploded? It should recognize that all of the old posts were exploded, and from that point on just explode anything that was new and the stuff that gets added again. So it's pretty intelligent. It keeps everything in the database, and it checks. Does Social Explosion accept and process the RSS Atom file format? That's an excellent question. I'm not sure. You know, in the spec that I gave the programmer, I was not specific as to what format file of RSS it should take. I'll check. All right. Next set of questions. Questions about duplicate content. Russell spoke about stealing content. Russell, are you stealing content again?
All the time.
Dang it. In other words...
Talking about doing things you shouldn't be doing.
Right. I distinctly remember my mother telling me that stealing was a no-no. All right.
Depends on so many things.
It's not my mother's internet. Is this what you're trying to say? Okay,
no.
Fine. Russell,
Lift your hand, Russell.
Russell spoke about stealing content. In other words, taking the content of a post in an RSS feed and it being posted in another blog somewhere.
I'm taking those videos off right now. Oh, that was like one sentence. That was like an obscure sentence in the middle of nowhere on like minute 47 buried in this video.
Could you explain when this is duplicate content and when not duplicate content and when it matters? Oh, that's a wonderful question, which doesn't have anything to do about the stolen content. But yes, let's go into that for a nanosecond. So at the moment, Google cares about duplicate content on the same domain. So in other words, if you put up two subdomains and they've got exactly the website on it, same website on it, same content on it, all that kind of good stuff, Google frowns upon that. If you have the same page of content twice on the same subdomain, Google frowns on that. If you've got only one page but you've got multiple ways to get to that page and each way gives you a different URL string and they're not canonicalized, Google frowns on that. If you've got the same content on different domains, Google's okay with that. Now, it doesn't mean that everything's going to get indexed. Let's say you got 100 different copies. Well, let's start simply. Let's say that you've got 2 different copies of the same content out on 2 different domains. Doesn't mean that either or both of those pieces of content are going to get indexed. It depends on the domain authority of the site, and it depends on the inbound links to the page. Okay, so if Google perceives that it's important enough, it will index it. And if Google perceives that both pieces of content, despite the fact that they're duplicate, are important enough, it will index them both. Now, if you have 100 pieces of content out there and they all link to one site, Google might start to think that there's something a little bit fishy going on. There is a threshold, and we haven't done enough testing for me to tell you exactly where the threshold is, but obviously you can put out something like
About
a press.
20.10369% precisely on your page. No more, no less.
No. Oh, you're talking about percentage of unique content. No, I'm talking about the number of times you can put out exactly the same piece of content and link it to the same place before Google.
Oh, well, that's only
deems it spam.
2.963%. Yeah.
So, so obviously you can put out a press release. Obviously, an important piece of information can be reiterated around the web. The thing that makes something safe is if you curate it. You add a couple of paragraphs to the top, which is what they were talking about, 20%, right? If 20% of your content, what were you saying, Jimmy, if it's unique or if the 20% is duplicate?
Well, it depends on, yeah, so if you have greater than, well, there's 2 different instances. So for links, link-wise, if you have a bunch of inbound links to the same page and all you're doing is syndicating content, typically when you get around the 20% threshold, you're starting to not be in happy land.
20% of what? Of all the inbound links you're talking?
All the inbound links. So if all you did was go out and do the same piece of content everywhere and you didn't do any other types of backlinks, RSS is a little different because, you know, all it's doing is syndicating, and I think there's some fudge factor in there with that. But let's say you went out and did your links on multiple properties, and you're going to end up with a bunch of them that aren't going to get indexed because they're not, like Google knows, you know, it's either low quality spun stuff or you just use the same content. This is a little bit different than RSS. So when you start getting that 20% threshold, Google thinks that you're trying to game the system by just doing spun content or whatever just to get the inbound links. Typically what I see, and this is the filter suspicious for when you're looking at it in Kemper tools, usually when that's around the 20% or more range, I go in and disavow those because it's too many. If you're below 20% for your total amount of links, then you seem to be safe. It doesn't seem to affect your site as much.
Right. So
but RSS is different in the fact that, you know, that's basically how they share content all over the web. So I think they give them, you know, I think they give them wiggle room, just like how they do with tube content on like local keywords at the moment. So.
Right. So this is why when we created the 1 feed supercharger, you've got the option there to have just the synopsis or to have the entire content. And so if I'm going to create a feed and I'm not sure where it's going to go, like where it might end up, I make sure I have just the synopsis there, because that does two things. It drives the traffic back to my full article, and it makes sure that I don't run into that deep content penalty, because it's just a couple of sentences that are going to go out and not the entire content. All right, I've seen some questions come in. Do we need to answer some of these?
Yeah. Sue has mentioned a couple times that we should always set our sites using www version. Why is that?
You know, last week when we showed you how to protect your site, how to protect your domain, that's another way that you can protect it. And aside from that, I'm not going to get into it. Just know that if you get in hot water, you're going to be really happy that you got it. Dub.
Yep, absolutely. And you don't want to get into that. Why? Sue advanced?
Because we're going to put out a whole course and stuff like that. So
I know. Okay. But it's pretty important. Okay. You can't give a little bit more information? Never mind. Okay.
It opens up just a huge can of worms. So.
Okay. Here's somebody who is struggling with DAS, domain authority stacking. He doesn't even understand what it's for. What does it accomplish? Well, it accomplishes rankings, Don. You should get a bump in rankings, and you should build more trust to your site, and in some cases, power. You've tried doing different DAS techniques, subdomains, video cracking plus social explosion. Okay, that's not anything I ever taught, by the way. Tumblr methods, maybe Cotton did, but I didn't. Tumblr methods, Tumblr method? Yeah, that's Jimmy's.
That's Jimmy's.
Okay, all right, so if you're not getting any results or you're not understanding what's going on, then you need to definitely look at whether or not you're following the instructions, because you will get a bump.
One thing I'd like to point out is we don't teach to put vCracken on an actual money site. Mm-hmm. That's just something that we don't do. The simple reason is you have to be wary of competitors. Competitors could easily go in, depending how well you're prettying up your vCracken portion of your site. You know, they could easily report that as pure spam if you're just simply doing videos and there's nothing else going on. So, you know, typically what we teach is those are further out. Those are going to be a tier 1 or tier 2 type link, because we're using it to generate traffic more so than as opposed to using.
Yeah, that's what I was just expressing to Don. I chatted him in there. The video cracking, I'll just be unplugged here for a second. Here's my concern with video cracking. The video cracking is like, I have a course that took me 2 weeks to teach that's fully advanced level certification. And then there's those who went to the OMG Live last year, the year before last, and got the video cracking plugin and are trying to figure out everything on their own. And we give as much information as we can in the OMG Nashville Live login area, but it's not the complete and total settings. We make sure that things aren't dangerous for you. And so the main thing is that the PinVid mechanisms, the automatic video traffic and engagement rank that we teach, is really primarily about traffic, you guys. Okay, Don's asking me here, okay, yes, but video cracking plus social explosion should build trust, right? Yeah, it should over time, Don. But again, you're using social signals across thousands of videos or dozens of videos, or if you're doing one video a day, you're going to build more, you know. So you have to keep in mind that, Don, you've expressed several different things here. You're saying that.
Something that you see his second to last comment there?
What's that?
Something specifically that we've talked about internally as well.
Well, what is that? Where?
1:21 p.m. I'm not going to read it out loud, but.
Which one? George's?
So, yeah, Greg.
W.
Yeah, that's not. I never taught subdomains for that. I never taught vCracken subdomains. I just never did. So I'll leave that to Sue to handle, because that's something that evolved out of the that evolved out of the mutation of all kinds of ideas to meme. And I'm not saying it's bad. I know Cotton did it, but it's just keep in mind that I didn't suggest that anybody put video cracking on a subdomain. So if you did,
there's certain things. I will add this. There's certain things that we also teach that you can do it if you understand what's going on and how to prevent the negative portion of that from happening. That's why.
Yeah, I'm not telling anybody that they couldn't build trust to their domain, to the subdomain of video cracking. I'm just saying that there's a reason that we didn't teach it to you guys.
Correct.
So if you're doing that, that's Cotton, playing dice with the universe and taking all the risks, and he knows what he's doing because he gets to talk to Jim and me a lot. I'm just saying that be cautious about putting video cracking on a subdomain unless you've got some advanced training. And I'm not going to sidestep Don's question at all here. Over time, Don, if you cultivate and carefully follow the engagement rank instructions on my advanced training for video cracking, you will build trust more rapidly than it sounds like that you're building to a pinbid site. Additionally, yes, social explosion does add trust over time because of the massive number of social signals that are getting crawled. Okay, not necessarily indexed, but crawled. Some get indexed, some don't. But you build trust because you're pointing our massive number of link shorteners through our thousands upon thousands of accounts pointing back to your pinbid site. But that's going to take some time. So if you're doing one post per day, don't expect like domain authority jumps into the 90s in 2 weeks. With social explosion pointed to pinvid. I mean, we would like to be able to offer you that, but our network's it's going to be about a year out before that kind of stuff starts happening. So I'm just pointing out that your expectations, Don, about what kind of results you're looking to see, give me specifics. Go to the Fanatical support desk, make it attention to me, and let me know exactly what it is that you're doing because you've given me 3 different kinds of things here.
We can also take a look at Don's site here in a few minutes and see what's going on. So there's a couple of things that I want to say. Let me back all the way up because I've seen some interesting things going on in the Facebook groups. So there's
something that I raised my hand about too.
Right. So there's all kinds of stuff that we play with. As we came onto the webinar, we talked about how we were up late last night, and we're like, one of the things that Jimmy loves to do is break stuff to find out where the thresholds are.
Oh, here, hang on a second. See, they're saying that Greg Morrison is teaching video cracking on subdomains.
Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. What we try to do, what we're very hard trying to do is, because we know where the limits are, because we've got some really advanced teachings, what we're trying to do is give you guys enough within a framework so that you won't blow yourselves up. So it's pretty easy these days to get into hot water pretty fast. So what we try to do is give you concepts within a parameter so that it's not going to be anything dangerous. Now what happens is people take ideas, maybe 2 or 3 tangent ideas, or maybe they hear something from someplace else, and they mix it in to what it is that we teach, and then things go on Facebook like wildfire. And if you want to try some of that stuff that's outside of what we teach, try it on a domain that you don't care about. Experiment, find out where the limits are, and then you know what you can and cannot do. If you take the stuff that we're not teaching, and like all I can say is that if we don't teach it, I can't make promises that it won't blow up. All right,
yeah.
So that's the only thing that I'm trying to get across.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it all started with the idea that you could 301 redirect.
No. Wait. So there's lots and lots and lots of ideas out there. I don't want to simplify this and just say that there's a couple of them. So I don't want to get into specifics, Russ. So
why? What that everybody knows. I mean, that is the specific.
So there's another point that I want to make, and I'm trying to hang on to it. If you just give me a second. I've
been up all night too, you know.
I know.
Can we just move on with some more questions?
No, wait. Yeah, we're going to have to now. I've lost it. Okay. So what are the other questions coming in? Okay, we'll do some over here then. So back to this idea of RSS feeds, duplicate content. The next thing was relating to deep content, trying to rank a video on Google, not a site, just a video, looking for 5 gigs. Qzx says it'll embed the video on 30 sites, write an accompanying article, and use that as text. Another says embed in 15, write some short text to go with it. Is this dupe content? Or does it matter because the point here is the video embed is not the blog post? I'd rather they use the text from the video because Russell said Google likes that. But I followed Joe M's instructions, so the video description is pretty long and has quite a few links in it. Well, I think we pretty much covered that with the first one. It's so long as it's on different domains, it's not div content. So long as it's less than 20% of your inbound links, you're good.
Yeah, you covered that.
So the next question, as far as RSS feed syndication goes, would it be correct to say that the ideal situation is to get do-follow links from high domain authority, which picks up my feeds, and no-follow links from any low domain authority, which picks up the feeds? An ideal situation. I suppose that would be ideal. Me personally, I don't try to sculpt it too darn much. I want it to look a little bit natural. So, yeah, you've got the ideal. Like, ideally, you could just have a couple of inbound links from high domain authority sites and rank for what you want to rank for, and then everything else could be organic. God, that was the other thing that I wanted to address. It almost came back. All right, question 10. Would it be a good or a bad idea to take the RSS feed from a high domain authority site and use it to mix into the content with one of my PBNs? I think it's a great idea, perhaps to get some more text in there in addition to the vCracken posts. I think it's a great idea. Jimmy?
Sorry, I was reading questions. Say that part again.
Oh, number 10. Would it be a good or bad idea to take the RSS feeds from high domain authority sites and use to mix in the content with your PBNs?
Yeah, it would be a good idea. I mean, you're basically, that's like doing a domain authority stack within your cluster. So when you're adding those in, the one thing I would say is you want to be careful not to, you don't want to dump all of them into one feed. You don't want to create a footprint. As I create custom feeds, I'm usually just taking, all the precautions we do to keep PBNs kind of separate from things. You need to consider the same possibilities when you're doing feeds. So for instance, if I do a custom feed with other authority blogs and I want to put like a sticky of one of my specific PBN posts that are going into that, then I'm only going to put one PBN post into that mix. And then as I move to the next PBN, that'll be a completely separate RSS feed, and then the same kind of thing. So that way, you're still getting the benefits of mixing your PBN in with those high DA RSS feeds, but you're still trying to limit the footprint that's coming out of them. You definitely don't want to take like all your PBNs and throw them into one feed, because then Google's obviously going to see that most of those are connected together. So just something to keep in mind as you're trying to mix PBNs in with your feeds.
It was actually the other way around.
Oh.
Putting the feeds on the PBNs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to put feeds on the PBNs, absolutely. That's just going to help add more power to that PBN. So.
Yeah. The one thing that I would the one thing that you want to be kind of careful about and it's this last part, perhaps to get some more text in there in addition to the vCracken posts. So like if you're going to stick a feed like in the sidebar or something like that, where it's going to be on every single page, you're not going to want that feed to go back to your money site, because then you're going to have every single page is going to have like 10 links back to your money site. So you just want to think about that. You can We get into a lot of this in the course that we're teaching right now, actually, the Cert Level 4 course. But yeah, it's just. But if you're going to take, non-competitive, market authoritative feeds and put those on your PBNs, I think that's great because it gives you links to high-quality places that are thematically relevant. So yeah, those are great. So question 11, Jimmy said that an ideal situation is to boost your site with as few inbound links as possible, but of course they need to be high quality. So would it be better not to submit the RSS feeds of the money site to any directories in case we get results from low quality DA/PA links back, but instead submit all the feeds for the DAS clusters and PBNs? I was wondering if the higher DA in the DAS stack would absorb some of the low quality backlink problem. That's an interesting question. Do you want to take that one, Mr. Keller?
That's a good point. I mean, yeah, I typically don't do, so me personally, when I'm doing RSS submissions, we typically have a list that we use that we've just, there's places you don't have to use tools and certain things like that to actually do automatic submissions. You can go and hand pick these and cherry pick them, and we've kind of compiled a list internally, at least the ones that I use, and I'll just go and manually submit those feeds to the more high quality ones that I know are not going to be applying some of the lower spammier stuff that some of the automation tools do. So certainly the more links you have going into a property, the lower that trust is going to go. If you can keep as few links going to that property as possible, it's going to keep your trust higher. So yeah, you typically, that's what I do for myself, but I don't know if they answered the question or not.
I think so. So do we have some questions on the sidebar that we need to address?
Yeah. Can you verify for me that juice is juice? If I have a link from a high domain and high PA Tumblr blog, is that the same as having a link from a similarly high DA PA private blog network, a PBN? I'm not sure that I fully understand the difference between generating power and generating authority. A little further color on that topic would be helpful. Mike S.
That was what we were talking about last night.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to even approach that. Generally speaking, which I've mentioned recently in my very not as advanced as Sue and Jimmy's description of this for dummies, which is me, because I'm not a SEO, really, believe it or not, is that essentially when we're dealing with trust, social networks, these platforms, when Jimmy and Sue get into talking about trusted seed sites, which was the origin of TrustRank, it's one of the first real seed site mathematics done by I think it's Stanford University professionals. The whole concept is about trust jump, from a collection of seed sites. The further you get away from that hand-curated group of seed sites that are deemed to be reference-based or authority, Wikipedia being a really great example, right? Anything that's an authority that's highly popular, as in Moz Trust, it's one of the factors they use. Anything that is trustworthy, it's quite political in that sense because these are sites that people are going to use and they're known to be trustworthy. For Google, it is the Google Data Hub partners. Okay, by the way, Delicious and Digo, which we use in Social Explosion, are Data Hub partners. Those are also trusted social sites. So when we're talking about trust, we're talking about any sites that either are politically trusted, as in the Google Hub partners, and or reference-based, such as Wikipedia, universities.edus were so popular, that's why everybody was trying to get links from them, because for a while they were kind of corresponding to like those seed sets that Jimmy is really talking about. Okay, so really domain authority stacking, you guys, is about, as you listen to Jimmy and Sue talk about it in domain authority stacking, the least number of jumps from a high page authority and domain authority to your site from that site, rather than getting, being very close to spam indexing sites that have no domain authority and no page authority. And so that's really the essence of your question, Mike, is a PBN. Really look at what a PBN is designed to do. If you look at what PBNs are about. It's about buying that domain authority up front, right, and hoping that it's real, and hoping that you don't have fake toolbars and fake page rank, and that they don't redirect all the crap back to you once you buy it or away from you once you buy it, right, all the good stuff. There's all these variables in which when you buy a PBN can come up and might come up if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not a professional. So the reality would be yes. I mean, with the PBN, what you're trying to do is buy. I mean, Jimmy, you guys, and Sue, you cut me off and put me in my place if I get this wrong, okay? Because this is not my area of expertise. But you're trying to buy your authority and your power, right, Jimmy? I mean, that's pretty much one way to look at it. Would you agree, or?
Yeah, that's correct. So, the whole reason they're buying it is because it has power and a certain amount of trust already built in. And that's primarily why you see such big jumps when you're getting your PBN links. Now, the interesting thing is people think that they need to. How much we want to go into like what we went over last night?
Yeah, go ahead. We have. How do you want to approach that?
So
go ahead.
I would wrap it back to applying to what we taught in the course, what we actually taught in Director's Cut, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we talk a lot about domain authority stacking, and so I would keep it couched around that. Okay.
I'm trying to remember what was in there.
So let me go back to the question.
Yeah, I've got to look at it.
The question is juice? And there's two aspects to juice. One is trust and one is power. So no, juice is not actually juice.
Exactly. Good point. So that speaks to Mike's. What do you mean by juice? So what you're saying is that juice is juice.
Is a link is basically what it's asking.
A link is not a link is not a link. Okay, because there's there's low, high. Yeah. Okay, I understand what his question is.
Okay.
No, it's not, Mike. Juice is not actually juice. You can have low trust, low authority. You can have medium trust, low authority. You can have high trust, high authority, right? There's gradients. And that's why people looking for a set template, we get this a lot when they're looking for a set pattern. One person asked me this morning in one of my own private Skype groups, exactly how much juice is lost in 5 jumps left of center from my one silo stack with domain authority stacking to a Tumblr site with a fiber gig. I can't tell you how much juice was gained or lost from 5 jumps.
Five jumps, it's all lost.
He actually said that. He was like,
in 5 jumps, it's all lost.
I know that, but again, he's talking about like how much juice is lost from the second jump, and then, you know what I mean? They're like looking for a precise calculation of these variables.
Well, yeah. So then it goes. It depends. So okay, yeah. I think we've covered Mike's question.
Wow. Okay. Next question. Russell, your YouTube video is trust versus power might be good for the conversion about juice, power and trust. Okay. No. Next question. Based on where I can tell where Sue wants to drive the conversation today, let's just stick with the conversations happening here. Because I don't even know what trust versus. Jimmy covers that really, really well in Director's Cut. And actually, those videos will probably get removed from the Facebook area. And pending Sue's approval, maybe they'll go into the DC. I don't know. I didn't expect those to go as viral as they did. So, Pip says, when you guys say that fewer links are better, would that apply to links from citations as well from local? Is there a point of diminishing return? Jimmy, that's a citation question.
So can I just take the screen for a moment?
Yes.
Is that okay, Sue?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me if you can see it okay.
Yes, we can see you fine.
Okay. So there's a lot of instances, so I'll just briefly cover this, not to go into too much detail. So when you're looking at a page, so think back to how PageRank was back in the day, right? So everybody and their mom wanted to go and get a link from, PR5 Plus or whatever. Okay, so when we come into this, we get a link, next person gets a link, next person gets a link, a link. Pretty soon everybody's spam this to all get out. There's like 1,000 links coming off the PR5. Okay, so what happens to the power of that when it's going to your website that you link to? Okay, so the more links going out, does anybody know what happens to the page rank? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. PR falls, it deflates. Right, it drops. Because this juice is being spread out through every single link that you have in here, right? So, whereas if we only had 3 of these, let's say when we first got it, we're going to, probably be able to pull a PR2 power or something like that. Without doing the calculation, I can't do it off the top of my head. But so how power works and how PageRank works, that's what you're looking at. The more links outbound, the fewer PR is being transferred to your website. Okay, now the opposite is true when you're dealing with trust. Okay, so let's say we have our Save Money page here, and this is a great lesson for anyone to take away. So let's say you've gone out and you've built these links, and let's just say that you're stuck on page 2 or page 3 or bottom of page 1, and you just can't move it for anything. What do you do? You guys tell me, what would you do to try and move that money site up after building these links? No, not call me or ask me. Give me a good guess. Put a guess in. Add links to tier 2, right? So what most people's thoughts are is going out here and adding more links, right? They're like, oh, I'll just go build more links because that's gonna build my site. What mentality is that by building more links? What are you thinking of in your head? Okay, that's coming from the PR mentality. PR does not move websites today. Okay, that is coming from what you need to be focusing on is how to enhance the quality of these links. And so you're not going to go and build more links because that plays to PR. Okay, and the more of these that you build, well, yes, that's going to increase your power, right? What happens to your trust? It goes down. Okay, so this is kind of the line in the sand, if you want to look at it that way, that Google has drawn. This is the shift that they're making.
Yeah, that red line between those two is very good explanation.
So if we want to maintain the trust that we built, this is why we don't go crazy with doing this kind of defines and sets apart DAS. Okay, so when we're looking at an individual property here, most people are thinking, well, I'll just go do tiered linking. Okay, so what do they start doing? They start hitting these with all this other inbound links, right? So what's happening to this DAS property that you built with the trust that you specifically picked for that to be a DAS property as you're hitting this with additional links? It's getting diluted, right? So your trust or your DA is plummeting on this property that you originally picked to try and get the trust from it. So basically the goal is to find these high DA properties and use as few links as possible to actually power this thing up. You know, you want to try and do it with maybe just 2. So you need some power from these because you don't want to dilute the trust on this, and you're also concerned about you know, if these are also high DA, then you're going to be passing on a little bit of that trust over to this one. Okay, so when we're chaining stuff in domain authority stacking, when we're doing our clusters, what are we doing with the trust when we're coming out and linking these over to others, right? So this might be like a 30 DA, and what you'll end up with, you know, you're not going to get a full 30 DA transfer of trust over to here, but you'll end up with some. You might get a 5, right? So 5 will be added to whatever your DA would be on this side. Let's say this, you were able to pull like a 25 trust out of this. Okay, so now you just boosted this up to 30. But if you come in here and you spam the crap out of it, or if you add more links, this number here is going to go down and down and down. So what everybody needs to be focusing on is not, you know, get out of this mentality here. Get out of your PR mindset. PR can work. So, you know, when you have PBNs, you do have PR and you have your DA and trust already built in, right? So you have both of those things. But when you're looking at, you know, that's the whole purpose when you're buying a PBN. So those can get you to a certain extent, but sometimes you just need more trusted type stuff to be able to push that up on page 1. So the goal is to try and power these up using as few of links as possible. You don't go out and spam the living.
Yeah, another thing that's kind of weird that I was talking to Jimmy about yesterday was, you know, you have a certain limited number of tools. Like you've got a lot of people are using Mozbar, you know, page authority, domain authority, and it's like it's the best of the worst, or you know, that's arguable. But I mean, it's not. It doesn't necessarily indicate everything, you know, that in terms of authority building or domain authority. I mean, it's like it's the least imperfect. It's the best that we have. But you know, it'll find things that are indexed, but it won't necessarily look where domain authority has been pushed. And also, Moz Trust is slightly different than some of the other algorithms that are out there. So I've just noticed that Jimmy uses these types of things together to, you know, there's a lot of different variables. We use the best tools that we can, but not all of them have the full encompassing view. So you've got to just kind of average it out. You've got to look at it in terms of the, you know, the least imperfect data.
Yeah, and when you implement it correctly, you don't need to do a lot. You're not building a ton of manual links. You know, we give you a DAS. You know, we give you a DAS cluster diagram to do as a go-by, but you know, when you're thinking in the terms of this, what we just told you here, you know, you're thinking, well, maybe I don't actually need to build out more clusters. Maybe I need to focus and spend some more time on these ones I've already built. Like, how can I enhance quality of this individual link? So, and that's going to take you a lot further than.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking about Don W's. You know, he was talking earlier. Like, probably when looking at that, I'm going to look at his case, but probably when looking at that, he's probably going to want to put a little bit more attention on the stuff that he already has. I mean, that's also all of our students too, from the different places where we have students. Generally speaking, that's the one thing. They're pretty much. Would you say, Jimmy, that like 90% of your students are overly focused on power and not enough focus on sculpting the trust?
Yeah, and it's an easy thing to do because, I mean, where did, you know, all SEOs came from this mindset, you know, before trust
Gotcha.
came into a factor.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, let's just revisit this again so people can remember.
It's a hard habit to break.
Yeah.
It's a hard habit.
Let's see if we can pull these in. I think they have some of them. There's a chart down here somewhere, I think. Okay, right here. So they did this study on local specifically, but local is behind the national algorithm, right? So this is no different than what you're looking at for the national mindset. And with, you know, we started looking at this when the pre-payday loans even came out to begin with. This is when they started making that shift, and this was back in 2000. In fact, I think it was May of 2011 that the actual first rendition came out for the payday loans update. The official announcement was later on in 2012, but all the niches that, you know, we're talking like payday loans and insurance and all that, we got to experience that update about 6 months in advance prior to them rolling it out to everyone. But look at these ranking factors here. The domain authority of the website linking to you, the quality and authority of the inbound links. Like, these are your top 5 ranking factors, the quality and authority of inbound links to landing page. So, and nowhere in here are you looking at power necessarily. This is all about trusted websites linking to trusted websites. Okay, so the authority type sites that you're looking at. And of course you have other factors in here, like for local specific, they want to, you know, having descriptors, you know, like your city and state in your title, and some of the other meta areas are in there. But for the most part, look at your core things that you're looking at for links. So now that you kind of go back to this diagram, this should make a little more sense as to when you're building those types of links, really what you should be looking or paying attention to. Where Google is shifting away from this, and that'll come more full circle as the semantic web comes further into play.
Got it.
We'll leave it at
that. Here's another question I get. Go ahead, Sue.
The one thing that I would say, too, in that subtle reference to the semantic web, is that I'm sure that there are a lot of considerations, a lot of variables when you look at a natural site that's popular. In other words, one where they're not trying to manipulate the page authority and domain authority. You just look at a site that by its very nature is super popular. They get a lot of traffic, they get a lot of inbound links naturally, and you look at the environment that's going on with that site, right? What do people do with that site? How do they interact with it? What are all of the subtle things besides the obvious inbound links? You're going to see, what I have seen personally is Google shifts more and more toward those subtle things all the time. They're looking for the telltale signs of a naturally popular site. So think about that too, because I've seen aspects of that in my own sites where I've done something stupid and gotten it penalized, and it's magically come out from being penalized, manual filters and the like, and it's not because I was doing something specific in an attempt to manipulate it that it recovered. It was because it was, you know, it had the look and feel of natural popularity. So just something else to consider along with the whole trust thing and where Google's going toward. All right, so
Sue, there is a question that keeps coming back. Again, I think someone else brought it up here, and I think you guys should answer it. I get it a lot, everywhere, and I don't know why it keeps coming back, but can I link, like, my Tumblr blog? If I have a Tumblr blog and that links to my PBN, but forgive me for being a bit slow, but would it be okay to take my Tumblr blog and link to my PBN that then links to my money site? I've gotten several of those questions the last few days after the Tumblr method came out, and I was wondering if you guys would address that.
There's a lot of scenarios to that. You know,
yeah. Is there a simple answer?
Well, I mean, it just kind of depends.
Exactly.
So we can show some examples here. So let's just go and do one. So let's go take a look at a search somewhere. So let's do like New York roofers. So that'd be sweet to do on that. So, or you know, we can even look at, let's look at the other one. Let's do water damage, Salt Lake City. Okay. So when I'm first looking at this, you have sites here. So you got like an 18 DA, you got a 15 DA. You know,
Got
here's
100.
100. That's a video, and you know, people wonder why videos rank so easily. It's because you're not having to do too much.
Right.
You know, but most people are trying to work with money sites. They're trying to get these rankings with sites that they've built or a client site or something like that. And so the approach here, what you're looking for is like, well, gosh, how much, like, what should I do? What type of link building is best? There's a lot of different approaches that you can take, and it really kind of depends on where you're at in your SEO career. You know, there's, you know, you can rank for probably anything with unlimited resources, but most people coming into SEO initially don't have those resources to spend to get the types of links that they might be able to get utilizing PBNs or some other expensive services that are out there. So what do we do? So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at, oh, well, you know, the DA is only 18 and 15. So I know that, you know, generally in this type of niche, you're not really going to need too many links. I mean, this literally, you know, you can rank this in like 2 weeks. Like, I could put up a new site and be at #1 in 2 weeks if I wanted to, but do I care about it? No. So, so let's just take a look back at like a linking example. So I'm thinking about that. I'm like, you know, DA doesn't have to be raised too much, and so there's lots of options, right? We have an option of a PBN. We have an option of, you know, if it's a company, we can go out and get citations. And we can go out and do some DAS clustering, and you can also go out and do some social campaigns. You know, so go out there and get some social going on. Now I'll just ask a question to the audience. Which ones do you think I'd choose when I first start a campaign? Give me some suggestions here. Right. So you guys are mostly getting it. So everybody's saying social and citations. There's a few DAS and socials in there. So the #1 thing that I do before anything else, for me personally, when I build backlinks to a site, is do citations. Why am I building citations? Does anybody know? Yeah, it increases trust, but what is it actually saying about my website? Yeah, it's a branding thing. You know, it's real. So what's Google in the business of? Google's in the business of they want to find real people, real businesses, real products. That's what they want on their search engine. They don't want some affiliate thing going on up there that's, you know, reselling for another business. If they had their way, they would probably gut all those out altogether. So citations help provide, hey, I got a business location, you know, it starts getting some branding going on. Google says, oh, they got a physical address, they must be an actual store, things like that going on. So this is the first thing I build. Does anybody know what the second one is? Right. Yeah, so you guys are mostly getting it. Social is my #2 option for building links. So social is a great way because this can provide, so typically from your citations you're going to get URL or branded type links, right? Sometimes you get some others because they say just website branded. Sometimes they just say website or visit website on those things. So that starts me out with saying, hey, I'm a business, and I also am starting out with dilution right off the bat. So I'm not worried about like over anchorage or how much keyword percentage is going on. I don't have to care about any of that. The second one, why I do this, is this does the same thing. So typically these will be like shorteners. And this also starts kicking off some of your DAS, right? So, you know, it's an initial kick. If you go through the training videos that we did in DC, and Russ walked you guys through how to put these out through, was it Hootsuite that we went through? Or was it? Yeah, so put them out through Hootsuite. I mean, this is really starting to create some of the things that you'll need for DAS, but also it's adding to more dilution. So you're going to get some shorteners. You know, if you get people start tweeting or getting Facebook shares and stuff like that, that can help provide some traffic. And so for me, these are the two most important things that we're looking at first. Now from here, depends on the competition of the keyword. You know, how much trust do I need to build? Well, now we come to DAS or PBN. So starting out from here, it's really kind of a toss-up, because I can build what I need from a PBN using DAS and not have to get a PBN. Or if I have the resources, I might just go and buy you know, 5 or 10 PBNs to accomplish the same job. So it really just kind of depends on what your competition is. If you're going after high competition stuff, you're going to have to incorporate both, you know. So for me, this is my order of where I go and what order I get links in, because typically because a PBN houses power and trust, you know, it'll pack a punch without having to do anything else to it. That's usually when I'll use those for like the exact match at the very end of my link building campaign. But typically I'll already be ranking by the time I roll out the first cluster on this. So, you know, depending on the keyword, you might have to do 2 or 3 clusters, and you know, you can push your way all the way to the top. So let me see, going back to the question, I might have strayed a little bit there.
Just a little bit.
What was the question again?
I have no idea.
I always stray, don't I?
There was a question?
Oh, I think they were asking like what, you know, so when you're looking at this, I remember the question. So you're saying like, well, should I use DAS to build to the PBN, or should I do PBNs to DAS? It really doesn't matter, because what you're trying to, it just kind of depends on where you're at financially, right? Like you might have a ton of PBNs, or you might not be able to afford any. You might just be able to build the free properties you can get through DAS. So you're just trying to build your power. Well, first and foremost, you're trying to build your trust, and then you're going to build your power, and then usually by implementing this, I've already provided social proof, because hopefully these two factors are kicking in over here on the social side. And this really is all I look at when I'm trying to rank something. It's not, you know, so we've learned how to do this, we know what this is, and we know what this is. There's not really too much other metrics that I really look at I mean, there are a few, but the most important ones are those. And this thing got all jacked up. So just kind of take it from that standpoint. When you're looking at the DA of sites that are already ranking for the keyword you're going after, you know, more than likely, like on this one specifically, why would anyone bother to send 111 links to a website? I mean, that's just dumb. So, I mean, you could do it with 30. You know, the YouTube video is probably doing it with embeds, is my guess. You know, but mostly look at this one down here. Like, they've got a pretty high DA. Guarantee you this is an internal link from their own page in here. So on and so forth. You don't need to be building the heck. You don't need to be building so many links to get the rankings that you're trying to accomplish. You know, like look at what happened here. This is a 25 DA. It has 118 links. Shouldn't the 25 be outranking these other ones? I mean, it definitely has more links than this one. So it should be toppling it, right? But it's not. Those out of those 111 links, they've probably diluted the trust so much that that 25 is not actually in the 25 range anymore. So things to consider when you're looking at, you know, what type of links to build, what should I do next, things like this. My guess is this one right here is probably sitting in a pretty good position because they only have 15 links. They still have a DA of 11. I wouldn't be surprised if this one moves up in the rankings probably over the next 2 or 3 months, depending on how they're doing their SEO campaigns. So just food for thought.
Dang. I don't know if there's anything to do after that. All right. Yeah, exactly. Hashtag boom. All right, so shall I take the screen back and we go back to a few questions? I don't know that there should be any questions after that.
That should clear up most of those types of questions, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. It should clear up everything. All right. All right, so RSS feed, boost your site. All right, that's that one. Russell mentioned that you got all social explosion signals indexed.
I said that we I actually did not say that. I said that we crawl everything.
We get them pinged.
And yeah, we get them pinged, and that ping passes trust, and people don't know that in general, and that some of our things do absolutely get indexed. It depends on the power of the specific accounts, which is growing extensively as we build our massive networks. So I'm not sure where you actually got that, but please do make sure that you see the RSS video 3 that I talk about that.
So if I write a post on my blog and then tweet it and share it on Facebook and Google+, and perhaps even other places like Tumblr, should I try to get those social posts indexed using indexification or similar service?
Yeah, and again, I did address that. Remember, there's like all kinds of organizations out there, guys, that are trying to get Twitter status updates and all the social updates indexed, including Twitter themselves. And what happened in 2011, you can read my article on Network Empire News on this from 2012. Google actually finally just threw their hands up and said at 1 billion tweets per day, we're not going to be indexing absolutely everybody. And it's just not something that happens. And we work very hard to crawl every single thing that goes through the social explosion. And just in general, the way that you want to look at it is look at it from Google's perspective. This is something that Jimmy and I talked about a couple days back, and then Sue really got into with me at lunch the other day. And that depends a huge amount on the power of the Twitter account, and it's dependent upon things like retweets and building specific power to individual status updates and posts. So the answer is, for instance, the 5 iframe punch, which we talked with you guys about, was designed to power up your social status updates. Sometimes that can happen. So the bottom line is that by default, a post, a status update, doesn't get indexed by default. Especially, it won't get indexed on very weak social accounts. And even strong social accounts, even if you go and look at Matt Cutz's tweets, you'll see that only once in a great while, when they are, depending upon the quality of their retweets, are they actually indexed. And what Jimmy will tell you, and I hope he'll speak to it now, is that it's really about getting crawled to build trust. You want to talk about that, Jimmy?
Yeah, so I mean, there's examples, and I think, you know, so back before we were really powering up some of the stuff, although the powering up happens naturally anyway over time.
Yeah.
You know, why on thin content sites we installed Social Explosion, and several of those recovered from thin content penalties.
Yeah.
So why is that? The social links weren't actually indexed, but why would that? Do you think? Let's put it this way. Let's say somebody came to my website and they read an article and they thought, man, this is just awesome stuff. And they go out and they do a tweet about it, or they go out and put share it on Facebook or whatever. Let's say Google never actually indexes that link, but they see it, they crawl it. Was that social signal worth anything at all, or is it worthless? Let me hear your answers.
1, if you think it was worth something, and 2, if you think it's worthless.
Yeah. Most people are saying power still exists.
Yeah, so it's still worthwhile.
Most people believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still worthwhile. It's, did we get any power from that tweet? Probably not, because it wasn't indexed. But what we did get was a social signal. What does social activity do on a site? Like, what's that? How does Google look at a social activity on a site? When something goes viral, what's going on? You're getting traffic going to that site. You're getting a bunch of social signals going all over the place. But you might not have links necessarily going on. Why would they choose to rank it? These are things that you have to ask yourself when you're building your links is, why would that be that's worth anything at all? Well, it's worth it because it's showing some social engagement for the site. It's showing that other people are seeing that your site are worth taking time out of their day to go and do a tweet about your specific URL. Now, obviously, there's ways to game it and things like that, but down to the core of what Google would want in their perfect world, that's something to consider.
Excellent.
Okay, so the next one is about Google Maps. Preface this by saying she's in the UK. Sorry if this isn't the right place for the question. If there's a radius to appear on Google Maps, that has been a long-standing myth. I'm looking at a friend's business. The address of his consulting room's town, 8 miles from the town center, not appearing on the map. Haven't investigated. I have not. I know the person who started that rumor, and I've never ever seen any evidence that there's anything about how far you are from the city center as to whether or not you get into Google Maps. The only exception to that is if you're not actually in that subdomain, or the subdomain, geez Louise, that suburb anymore, right? So if it's a map about a particular, like where we've got a bunch of cities in Phoenix area, right? So if it's not actually in Mesa, unless it's got a second address that's in Mesa, then you're probably not going to rank for Mesa very easily. So if your business is in Chandler and you want to get ranked in Mesa, you better be creative about it because there's lots of businesses in Mesa. Now, if you're the only dog grooming service for 100 miles, then it's much easier. But that's the only thing that I can think of is, so long as there's competition, you have to actually be in that area in order to show up in the map pack. Other than that, it's all SEO.
Yeah, it comes down to how they're going to set up their Google business page. So there's two things that they can do. They either service people to their business, or they service people at their homes. Now, when you select that people come to your business, you keep the address on, it'll display your address when you go to a maps listing. If you're just saying that you service the area, then it's not going to display your map listing, but you'll just see like city, state underneath the phone number when you're looking at the maps results. So if you're in competition with someone that actually does only service that area, and I think the Centroid thing used to come into play probably like 3 or 4 years ago, but it's not so much important anymore. It really depends on how you set that up. Do you service many areas? It's a good way to rank in other cities around you, but if you have another business that's pretty strong SEO-wise and they say that they're going to display their address and they come to that business, they're going to more than likely trump, without a lot of SEO effort on the other end, trump that other business almost every time as far as the maps go.
Yep. Penalty question. Does manual penalty on a subdomain penalize the main domain?
What's that? Does a manual penalty? Depends on if it was, a manual penalty can penalize, if somebody goes into the site, Google thinks that you're doing garbage stuff. Another reason we don't recommend putting some stuff on subdomains, as discussed earlier.
Yep.
The reviewer can take action across the whole site. It's not, now algorithmically, if the algorithm is going to hit that subdomain, then it'll just be housed there. But if you get somebody that's being a jerk and reports one of your pages that's ranking for some long tail obscure keyword somewhere, then that reviewer can take action on the entire domain. It won't just be housed to the subdomain.
I have a redirect question. Okay, so I'm trying to do a redirect from homepage1.com to homepage2.com works fine, but when I type in a different URL of the homepage one, it tries to redirect to a new sub-URL. But I want it to redirect the juice directly from the homepage plus URLs of that domain to homepage. So you want to redirect everything, no matter what page it is, to the homepage of the new domain. Oh, yeah, okay.
Do you want to go and study the difference between just a regular redirect and a redirect rule, and that will answer.
Exactly. Yeah. Google Verified Publisher, it appears that the test tool has changed and do not see Verified Publisher. Link to the Google Rich Snippets Structure Tool test for GDCNE page goes to this new look.
Lonnie, just ping me your ticket on Skype.
You familiar with the changes in Google Verified Publisher, Russ?
Yes. Oh, no. Oh, well, that's the new tool that Kevin recommended.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have that in there by default. Like, I'm not seeing the publisher on there, but the old tool still has it, which still works. I don't really understand. Sue, maybe you can answer this. This is the new tool that Kevin forwarded, which is quite a bit more sophisticated in terms of schema analysis.
Right.
I don't really understand. He seemed to say that it was replacing the old schema tool,
I believe it
which
is.
still has publisher on it. But they both still exist, so I can't really speak to that. I don't really know what it all means because I'm not a semantic expert.
All right.
I just know that the old one still has the publisher verifier on it, and that is a good point. I don't know precisely what not having the publisher on the new schema tool means. It could be a complete change, and I don't know what it implies.
We'll dig. We'll find out. We'll come back.
Jazz is saying she doesn't know what the schema tool is. What I'll do is I'll drop that for everybody here so that you guys know exactly what we're referring to. I'll send you both the old one and the new one so that you can see the verified publisher one still.
Interesting question from Mr. Matt Cutts. Watch the OneFeed video. Correct in thinking that in order to use the OneFeed supercharger effectively, you need social explosion. No.
No.
There are all kinds of interesting things that you can do with feeds.
Yeah, I created that video that I created that went viral specifically addresses that. There are a lot of people that somehow we gave the impression that OneFeed supercharger was only for social explosion. And that's so far from the truth that that's what inspired the video.
Ah, good. Yeah, because if it were, I would have just made one plugin out of it.
Yeah, no, Sue doesn't work like that. If things are separate, it has a very powerful purpose on its own. It's just one of the things that you can do, you know, is use it for social explosion if you wanted to. But there are so many, that's one of the challenges with feeds which inspired that video, is that there are so many ways that you can use it effectively, but there's almost too many choices. For if you're not clear on your stacking, like Jimmy just went over, because RSS feed can be used to, you know, to boost a lot of things, and so you just got to choose a path and realize what you're using it for. And I made that clear. It's like, ask yourself, are you using the RSS feed to publish to locations where there are people, okay, and where you're going to get, like Jimmy says, social engagement and retweets, and there's an audience that you've got in there? Or are you using it only for RSS submit, where you don't know if people will ever see it and it's only for machines? Well, OneFeed supercharger can be used for all of those things.
Exactly. That's why you can make a bunch of different feeds.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Mm-hmm.
All right, next question is, what's the best way to not get your Twitter account deleted? Okay, so there's so many ways to get your Twitter account deleted, and that I couldn't even possibly begin to explore them all. Check their terms of service. So that it's possible that somebody's reporting your Twitter account and getting it deleted. It's from an automated perspective, you might be tweeting too quickly. There's like, yeah, it just hard to say.
Might be a little unusual for a brand new Twitter account to start outputting, you know, 20, 50, 60 plus tweets a day.
Also, if you're tweeting without having followers, like, why? So make sure you get some followers first. Okay, so you think that Google doesn't index FeedBurner. How is it possible to get the link juice death benefit? Are you on this call? Let me just check. Probably not. My gut hunch is...
If you get a link from a non-index PBN, does it pass juice or not pass juice?
Yeah, I would just about guarantee you that Google's going to crawl everything that goes through FeedBurner. So, so I suspect that we've probably answered that. Is there any pitfall forcing indexification through link indexing service? No. Well, I mean, Jimmy just went through a long thing about that too. If my Tier 3 Weebly is Panda penalized, does it still pass juiced trust flow? Should I be worried about my money site?
That's an interesting question. Google is looking, well, we don't know for sure. So in the patent...
Great question.
And we went over this in the Skyfall update. In the latest Penguin Google patent update, Google is approved to basically, they're going to look 3 tiers back. So I do know that bad mojo on Tier 2 pointing to Tier 1 will cause a penalty to the money site. I haven't seen so many instances of it yet all the way up to Tier 3, but they are approved to go all the way out there. So how we teach is just assume to keep everything clean 3 tiers back, and you should be in good graces.
Exactly. If I link out to several sites, will the trust flow of each link be divided equally?
Say that question again?
If I link out to several sites, will the trust flow of each link be divided equally? You know, it would depend. And it would even depend with the old PageRank concept. It depends on where the link is on the page. What would you say, Jimmy? What were you going to say?
Yeah, it really depends. That's a dependent thing upon the property and the properties you're linking to.
Yeah.
And a few other factors, but we're not going to go that far down the rabbit hole.
Right. It's a deep rabbit hole. Can relevance boost trust flow? Relevance is different from trust flow. In fact, I might almost consider it a whole separate thingy-dingy. You could almost say that you've got power, trust, and thematic relevance. And thematic relevance will boost your ranking, I'll tell you that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it boosts trust, but it'll boost your ranking ability. Joe asks, copying the Tumblr method, can you use Pinterest repins, Facebook reposts, or Twitter reposts? Promote them through Social Explosion and have the same effect as the Tumblr method, even though they are no-follow links.
Don't get me started.
Ask yourself this. Between a follow link and a no-follow link, what does that play to over the diagram we went over earlier?
Exactly.
Right.
What lines is that?
Survey says.
I'm trying
What do you
to
guys
Only applies to power.
I'm trying to rank my own e-commerce site, big commerce platform. I'm having some trouble. Oh yeah, you would. Because it's bleeding link juice everywhere and doesn't have a silo structure. In the previous webinar, you mentioned about using subdomains siloed out with products and then ranking that. I have a couple questions. Do 301 redirect each product page on the subdomain? I wouldn't. So the question is, do I 301 redirect each product page? So after you go through the thing and you get it ranked and yada yada, do you redirect that to the product page? On the main site. And if you redirect it to the product page on the main site, it might boost the rankings on the main site a little bit, but there's no guarantee that you're actually going to hold that ranking that you held before, because in addition to that 301, so you've got this really great thing on your subdomain, right? You've siloed it out, and it's obvious what that theme is, and so you're managing to rank it with less power. Now you're going to redirect that finely tuned, thematically relevant concept over to a page where the theme is bled all over your site. And so even so you've got the same amount of power and everything, the theme of the page is muddied again. So because it gets muddied again, it'll hold the rank for a minute, but it probably won't stick. So no, I would stick the buy button over there on the page that's ranking and just let people do what they need to do that way. And I don't know if you can do that with BigCommerce. I'm not that familiar with it. My apologies. But, I would figure out a way to let them buy it right off that page.
Yes. Interesting thing, too, with, are the URL structures the same? Are your titles the same? You got to consider your domain authority in there, too. Like, once you've moved it to a subdomain, Google can see that as a separate site. So you might have very niche specific content that will help you rank above other higher DAs having that on a subdomain versus putting that under the roof of your main domain.
Exactly.
And this brings you closer to the importance of actually siloing. Remember what I drew out, and this is probably the worst thing about the e-commerce sites, or at least the traditional ones that you see, people build links to their homepage and they have other products under there. They're not really siloed, or they're kind of siloed but not optimized. All that link juice that they're building is just bleeding out all over the heck.
Yep. So the next question, does the content on the subdomain need to be unique, or can it be the same as on the main site? So if you have the content the same as what's on the main site, that's on the same domain, so that will trigger a dupe content penalty. So only one of those pages is going to get indexed, and Google's going to decide which one. And if you have enough of those dupe pages, it will hurt the ranking of your entire site. What you could do is have a canonical from, and I would do the canonical from your BigCommerce platform out to the subdomain that you're actually trying to rank. Because, let me just think about that for a nanosecond. Hang on, because it's going to take the theme stuff all along with it. Ugh. No, I actually wouldn't do a canonical. I take it back. No, I wouldn't do that, because then everything that you've just done to hone that theme over there on the subdomain is going to get wrecked, because all of the inbound links from everywhere on your BigCommerce platform is going to be now redirected into that subdomain. So you don't actually want to do a canonical from the BigCommerce subdomain over to the subdomain that you're trying to rank. So you're going to need different content. Sorry. That sucks. Really sorry. Not sure I'm doing the on-page optimization correctly for product pages on the e-commerce site. Could you give me an example of what you would put in the meta title H1 meta description for a product called Super Duper Brand Freedom Dog Harnesses? You know, that's another it depends. Because it's not just, like, you're thinking far too small here. When you're looking at optimization, and I know you're thinking just on-page optimization, but you can't think just on-page optimization. You got to look at the entire 9 yards. You need to look at the URL string. You need to look at meta descriptions. So, and the reason why I'm saying that, particularly in e-commerce, the reason why you need to look at your URL string is because chances are good this is going to be in a category called dog harness or dog harnesses, and then in another subdomain called dog or something like that. So if it's just like Super Duper Freedom Dog Harnesses, if that was the only page and there wasn't any other page on the entire site about dog harnesses, then your on page can be a lot more targeted to dog harnesses. But if you've got 50 oh, that's not going to come out of my mouth right now. If you've got 50 dog harness pages in that subdomain, then, or in that silo, then you're going to have a lot more chance for over-optimization as a whole, and so then you have to de-optimize that page more. Does that make sense? Give me a 1 if you got confused by my inability to be able to say dog harness, and it's
You had me at harness.
Do you want whips too? Wait.
Twisted. Twisted. Okay.
And chains, says Steve.
Oh, we're being rickrolled. George, you're terrible.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Jimmy rickrolled us.
So, Mr. Rick, so actually give me a 1 if you guys want us to go into more detail about that and what the optimization should look like and blah, 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 and a 2 if you guys have heard it enough and are sick of us talking for today.
If you're sick of us, just give us
rolled song.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a moment of silence and listen to Rick. Never gonna. Never gonna. Jazz is like, no. Rick Astley rocked. It was the ultimate one-hit wonder. It just goes to show you that one well-placed link can go viral. That's what one-hit wonder really means. It does happen. I'll look at a Pinvid blog and they'll be like this, okay, 500 visitors today, 500 visitors, 2 million on Thursday, 500 visitors, 500. You just never know what's going to happen. And then, of course, if I go there and it's a Rick Astley video.
Charlotte's actually, Charlotte's on the call. Hey, Charlotte, give me a 1 if that answers your question and a 2 if you want us to spell it out.
What's the question that we need to spell out?
If the dog harness question, like, I want a 1 if we, okay, so she's good with what we said. All right, Joe, 3 questions, 2-way links or reciprocal links. Let's say you got your Google Biz page linked from your YouTube channel from your YouTube channel's about page. All right, so from Google to YouTube. Then you also have your YouTube channel linked from your Google page, about page. Is this effective in DAS, or do the 2 links cancel each other out? Jimmy, can you cancel out DAS? Or does it go into an infinite loop where DAS is exponentially acquired?
Yes, you cannot phase cancel DAS. It's an iterative recursive loop.
And does it matter that the domain authority on both of those are already 100?
No, I mean, I think it's, it's a diminishing return, I would say, at some point, because how are you going to increase more, how are you going to increase more trust to something that's already as maxed out on trust that it can get, so, I mean, it's not going to hurt, but you're going to get more of a bump, I would say, as you add them up from the chaining, which, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay.
Sometimes if I'm just looking at pushing trust around, I'm not even paying attention to some of the stuff as far as like high to low and things like that. Sometimes it's just a play of I just want to push that trust and some of that DA all the way through the chain. So.
All right. In the 5 iframe punch method, can you scoop a page that's already linking to your scoop it page?
Totally. Preferably from another magazine.
Yes.
The main thing, again, Scoop It is a great place to get your own mind wrapped around this idea of what Jimmy was talking about, engagement rank and sharing. Remember, a scoop is the same exact thing as a retweet or a repen or something like that.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is one thing. I spoke earlier about duplicate content and duplicate content penalty on the same domain. There does come a point past which you have enough domain authority that duplicate content doesn't matter. I don't know exactly what that cutoff is, but I know that the super big sites like Scoopit and Twitter and some of the news authority sites and stuff like that, it just doesn't matter.
At what point, Jimmy, is your domain authority or your power and your trust so high that you could run infinite GSA links with low power and low trusts, and it's never influenced?
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting up in the 60s, like, you can very well just rank with just straight up GSA. I mean, the higher up your domain authority is, I mean, the more abuse it can take. But there are certain rules. You can't just go in there and do, you're still confined to filters, right? So we have to take in consideration of Panda and Penguin still, even with those types of things. So, anchor percentage, the links that you're spamming the heck out of, you put enough bad neighborhoods to something and it can topple it. You can topple it with dupe content. You could force them into a Panda penalty. There's still methods and things that you can do that won't render it, invincible. Not that we teach people specifically how to do that, but there are ways.
All right. Also, when you scoop a page in the 5-iframe punch method, can you include the same scoop it link in the add insight paragraph along with the other socials?
Yeah, Jimmy and I did that on a Webby at one point. In fact, he goes steps further. He puts every social, he uses that same scoop it page up with every previous tweet and pin. Like, in other words, any of the social status updates that also contain that blog article also can be put in that scoop it description.
All right.
So yeah, you're pretty safe to do pretty much anything in that within reason. That's fine. The short answer is yes.
Do I need a complete set of unique social profiles for every money page? For example, SEO, my city page, one set of social profiles, possibly include my personal Facebook, one affiliate site on weight loss, a second set of one affiliate site on personal growth, a third set. Oh, all right. So you're not talking about for every money page, but you mean for every money site. So let me just the short answer is yes. I was going to show you a diagram, but every time you have a money site at the middle of something, the way that we work at Network Empire is you have a set of social profiles for that money site. Yes. Regarding the Tumblr method, I have a post that has my money site link in the source. Dang, this is just getting really noisy. I have a post that has my money site link in the source, and also in the body of my Tumblr post. I have trouble getting reblog gigs from Fiverr because my niche is men's health. Doesn't resonate. Could we,
Yeah.
I'll let you take that, Jimmy. Just go ahead and read it, because I've got some noise on my side I need to kill. Hang on.
Oh no.
Yeah, so just, I mean, as long as you're going into, I'm on an 80s kick today, if people can't tell.
Yes.
So, if you can send them over through to the Tumblr, but you have to know even reblogs are going to be, anything you send to the reblogs or that original Tumblr are going to be tier 2 links. And so you just want to make sure that you're sending clean and controlled tiered linking to it, so you're not defeating the purpose of some of that trust. So now back to dancing.
All right. How does Google know if my site has real human traffic, thus making my site more resistant to penalty?
Ah, good question.
Well, it would just know. Google knows everything.
Yeah.
Now, so if you've got Google Analytics on your site, then it's going to know that you've got real human traffic. The only other way that Google is going to know is if it comes through one of its platforms. So either the search engine, through YouTube, through your G+ account, through your Google Maps account, through your Google Business page. So that's how it's going to know. That's one of the reasons why I stick Google Analytics on my money site, is because I want them to know how much traffic I get.
Precisely.
So, DAS versus PBNs, which one will give you more bang for your buck?
I don't think they're compared. It depends, doesn't it?
Well, here's the thing. Because DAS is built on third-party platforms, you run the risk of a third-party platform at some point in time in the future going away, right? So that's the downfall of a DAS stack. But when it comes to Evergreen, links from social media platforms will, that I don't see how that could ever be diminished. Links from PBNs, it's your own property. It's not ever going to go away. That's the upside there. The downside is unless you're careful with your PBN, like unless you're doing things to make your PBN not look stale in the eyes of Google, then it could be discovered. It could just like the link juice could wither up and blow away, and you always run the risk of it's being somehow discovered that it's part of a network. So those are the upsides and downsides of both. You take a risk either way. I would, I would think that the optimal answer would be diversification, just because I'm the kind of person who never likes to put all of my eggs in any one basket.
True. You are.
And I'm always looking for ways to make my quote PBNs unquote more evergreen, right? More natural looking, less like a network that's simply providing link juice to one or more money sites. How much trust flow? Oh, go ahead.
I just prefer to hack Google personally, but
well,
and how?
I'm not even going to go there. All right, next. How much trust flow does a PA47 YouTube pass to my site? Heaps.
Great question. Great question. Lots. I went through the, whoops. Everybody still there? I think I got caught.
Yeah, you're here.
I went through one of our YouTube channels the other day and found out we have something like 45 videos with a PA of 40 or greater, and we didn't even know. So we have, and there's like most of them have no descriptions, you know. It's kind of funny. You got to watch for that stuff. I mean, one of the things I'm really big on, you guys, is making sure that you're, rather than like complaining that you're not getting the power that you want, or just remember that a lot of the times you're under optimizing trust. Guilty as charged. I resemble that remark. Part of it's because we have so many things that we publish and so many things going on. After listening to Jimmy and Sue talk about, well, are you optimizing what you already have? Like, we go back into our own network empire stuff, and it's like, man, there's so much juice I'm leaving on the table, And so, of course, I get the team together and we make a document, and it's amazing. One of the things that I do is I'll even, well, I won't get into that, but I just make a list of all of the sites that we're not using. And so don't forget that you've got stuff out there that's might already be there that you don't even know on your network that you're not using as good as you could.
All right. Are there any other questions we need to address on the sidebar? It's scrolling pretty darn fast. You guys still there?
yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So.
Oh, sorry about that. I was talking to myself. Go ahead, Jimmy. I had a mute error.
So, Jimmy, could you please explain the page layout algorithm? What is the best practice? And is there any penalty associated with getting page layout wrong?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. No. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there is. So, Panda is all-encompassing. It is the grand poobah of, in my opinion, their filters. So Panda houses a lot of different things. Most of the things that come in for some of your penalties are all kind of kept within Panda. So Panda deals with a little bit of links. It deals with your page layout. It deals with dupe content. It deals with over-optimization on site. And so typically when people get hit by Panda, like the first thing people think is, oh, dupe content. Well, that's not the case, and you would have to go and take Traffic Hospital to see, like, we literally went over every single penalty thing you could go over in that course. It was a 15-hour course from front to back. And page layout is included within the Panda algorithm. So when you're looking at, you want your header to not be so big. There's, don't be able to just log in real quick and show them.
You don't want to do this.
Here, I'll pull up a site somewhere. Hold on a second.
See, this is an image, and it's huge, and it takes your and the next thing that happens is you've got this H1 here, and then you've got images right underneath it. You don't want to do that.
It's a no-no.
And then...
And Google doesn't discriminate between if it's a picture on your site, it could be a picture of a social, one of your social buttons could be a picture, it could be ads that you're doing, it could be all kinds of stuff, and Google doesn't discriminate between them. They just look for, is your content in this area? If it is, you're good. If you're not, then you're running into this page layout algorithm. And you know, the more I've looked at some of the penalties, the more I see like Google has just kind of been getting more simplistic with, you think that they do a lot of these complex algorithm checks and things, and the more I look at it, they just try to take more of a snapshot of some of this stuff. It's not necessarily, you know, all there.
You can still have the big pictures right up front, but just take a look at what it is that they're doing, right? Like, this is a background picture, and they've got text over the top of it. So you can still have that really pretty look and feel, but you gotta, like, sorry, I didn't mean to butt in, but it just occurred to me that that there are ways around, like, that you can still get that modern big image right up front that's so appealing without compromising their preferred standards. You know, I used to have that little Google checker thingy on my toolbar, and I can see that it's gone. That's in that's a Webmaster's Tools thing, right? Do you want to take the screen? Are you like lining stuff up to show them?
Yeah, I'm pulling some stuff up so they can see pretty colors and stuff like that.
Excellent. And the little squirrely red arrow thing?
Well, yeah.
You're going to have to show me where you get the red arrow from, because I've looked for it, and it's not like in GoTo.
So this site's all broken and busted out. So that's okay. Where is my screen share? Show my screen. And where is my little handy dandy arrow?
Oh, fine.
So this is found. So if you have your money site in Google, and maybe you have analytics, maybe you don't. But in analytics, your page layout, you can see what's going on with it. So once you go in, and you'll have to load up some code and junk, but once you get your site in analytics, you can go and click on this down here. It's under behavior, and you go down to in-page analytics, and when you're looking at this, you can then see it brings you to this screen when you load it up, you know, in the whatever it is in the browser. So if you just click on this little button here, I just clicked on browser size, and so this gives us percentages that you can see here, and I don't know if you can see as I'm mousing over it. This is basically showing, I wonder where the, let's see if we show percentiles. There we go. You can see what I clicked there, show percentiles. So it pulls up these little bubble areas here, and you can, I don't know if you could see it very well, but it's giving me percentages, and As you go further down this page, I mean, you can see these different lines that determine the percentages and what people see. So my content down here, this is all about placement of content, right? So Google wants to see content, which could also be a video. Somewhere up here, you want to be 80% and above for your content. So in this instance, when you're looking at my page, my header is just huge, and obviously my menu's all broken, and I haven't logged in this crap forever, but who cares? So if you look at the size of this header, this is just way too big because my content, so this is the 70% range here. Then remember, you want to be like 80% and above. But as you get down to here, like my content starts at almost the 40% mark, which is just way too, it's just horrible. So if you, one thing I could do to fix this is I would shrink the header and make sure that this content is going to start up in this 80% range. And you know, sometimes Panda, maybe you're not doing things that are really bad, but Panda can hit you because it can add up to maybe a few of different things. So you might get a lot of 404, let's say you get like 20 404 errors, and you have a little bit of over-optimization, and then you have bad page layout going on. All those things can trigger a Panda penalty. And without knowing exactly, you know, and we go over this in real depth in Traffic Hospital, but without really knowing like all the things that you're looking for, what you should do on site, you know, this could potentially put you into a Panda penalty, which is no bueno. So, yeah, does that answer that question? I think, maybe.
I think so.
What is the SEO aspects of having? What are the SEO aspects of having an image in a div layer?
Well, if you're looking, the only thing I'm looking at for images is like, where's my H1 at? So people shouldn't have like multiple H1s, right? They should just have like one. I see that mistake a lot. People like the size of the text, and so they put that all the way down the page. Don't do multiple H1s. The other thing is like, what if we put a picture right underneath the H1? So Google would see that, or let's just say my social buttons are right here. And a lot of plugins do this. I'm sure people can look at some of the sites or PBNs they own and see social buttons that are put right up above the content. If you look at the code, right, under the H1, we should go straight into the text portion of it. So let's see if I can, of course it's not going to let me do it. So let's just go over and visit the site real quick. So if I do a search for the page source, and we could just do a search for the H1. I don't have an H1 on there. Let's go to H2. So this was that big portion of the text right here, right? So that's where this is right here. That's where that's starting. Okay. Now, right underneath it, you're going to have a lot of other different codes. In this instance, we had, I think that's the lead capture box there. But typically what you want to see is you want to see content just start right underneath your H, right underneath some of your H tags. So this is the H2 right here for that specific page. So even on mine, I've jacked it up because I have too many H2s, but this site was built a long time ago when I was a little more green around the ears. So, but you know, if you had an image in here right underneath that, then that's going to be no good. That goes against your page layout. They don't discriminate between ads or social bars or on-page links or whatever. You just don't do it. So all those little details can add up, and they can throw you into that Panda penalty. So.
I was only wondering because the banner on the site that Sue was pointing out is marked up schematically for the schema. I was just wondering if that was a difference.
Well, I think you still want to stay within the page layout part of that because it's just looking at, you know, basic structure of a page. If it were me, I would still put text, you know, or just throw a video up above it or something, or in it, something that gets the content started, you know, in this top portion of the page is really what you're looking for. You don't want to be clear down here, as in this port example. So. The Panda penalty can be triggered basically with accumulation of pages. So it can be triggered by only one page on the site, or it can be triggered by many pages on the site. And the the details for all of that, you'd have to go do the course for, because like I said, there's just way too many this than that type of scenarios with the different penalties that they come out with. So different filters, I guess I should say.
Cool.
All right.
Okay. Looks like we're at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
I think we have covered a huge amount of stuff, some that we didn't expect to cover. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We covered a lot of stuff today, and don't try to get it all at once. Nobody knows as much as everybody, so that's why we do these office hours. And give me a 1 if you pulled something away from this training today that you didn't otherwise have, if a shoe dropped, and a 2 if you learned absolutely nothing and you're wondering why you even showed up. That would be the extremes there. Okay, we're getting absolutely no 2s, just a wall of 1s. Wow, great. Yeah, it was so good to seeing all of you. I got to tell you, I'm just really impressed by how many of you are showing immense discipline through all these trainings. And I'm really glad to get to know some of you personally through the help desk and different things. So thank you so much. Jimmy or Sue, do you have anything you want to close this with?
No.
Okay.
We'll see you next
So
week.
We'll see you next week. Next week on Tuesday will be in the evenings. And that's going to be, we'll go ahead and the time will be in there. Somebody asked earlier on in this webinar, is like, oh my gosh, this is not the last one, is it? That might have had something to do with it. We haven't rescheduled anymore.
We have rescheduled them, but I don't think that David actually saw my email, so we'll make sure that that gets posted.
Yeah. So we'll get you the new links. This is not stopping anytime soon.
No.
And which is to you guys' advantage. So we look forward to seeing you guys on the next Office Hours Director's Cut. Russell Wright, Sue Bell, Jimmy Kelly. We'll see you on the inside of Director's Cut. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.